Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Varun from the Red Music Box, and today we are going to talk about recording. Now, we are in the final tracking stage. So, all the work that you have done so far, be it writing a really good song, arranging your song, getting your pre production done right, getting a really good guide track and recording it really well, all of that work only so that today it's going to help you. That's your final tracking day where you walk into the studio, you want to lay down the tracks that's going to eventually make it in your album or EP. And this is what all of the excitement and all of that is about. So let's kind of look into some of the steps that really helps in your tracking day or your tracking session. Things to consider. The first one is gear. I think for all the gearheads there, you're going to be happy because all this while I was saying gear is not kind of what matters the most because all of it is skill based. Writing a good song is not gear intensive. Working on your arrangement doesn't necessarily have to be gear intensive, and so is pre-production and even guide tracking. You can make do with all the basic things that you have. But when it comes to your final recording, this is where you may want to start considering the kind of gear that you need for your songs. So if you have worked with your producer already and you have thought about what kind of tones that you're looking for on your album or your EP, then you know what are the kind of things that you'll need, what are the kind of gear that you'll need to achieve those tones. So try and hire them or buy them if you have the money. It may help you later when you start touring and traveling with your band. You can carry your own gear. Or hiring is a great option in this case, especially drum kits. Sometimes you may be looking for a certain kind of a sound. So you may want to swap your snare drum for different tracks. You may want to use different cymbals. You may want to use the darker cymbals, or you may want to use the brighter cymbals, or you may want to use different kinds of drum heads, or maybe different sizes of toms, or whatever it is that you need, different sizes of kick, and stuff like that. So try and make sure that you have all the right gear. For guitar players and bass players, you want to make sure that you have the right instrument in the first place. Make sure that you have the different kinds of guitars that you can use in your recording session. If you don't have, maybe borrow from friends, whatever it is that helps you on your recording day. Hiring out good amplifiers. You may want a different amp for your clean tones, a different amp for your dirty tones. So whatever it is that you're looking for, make sure that you have all of that, your pedals and all the stuff that you need to make good recordings close enough to the final sound that you have in your mind. Next thing is, do not forget about the accessories, by the way. They help you a lot in your song recording process. Stuff like capos, slides, good brand new guitar strings, and drum heads, moon gels or drum mutes or whatever it is that you use, brand new drumsticks and different types of picks, plectrums, very important. Try and get different kinds of picks and see how dramatically it can change your tone and feel and all that, in your playing. So try and get all these things. Most importantly, get very good quality cables, or make sure that if you're recording yourself at home, then you want to make sure that all the cables are really good. If you're going to a really good professional studio, then chances are they will definitely have really good cables for you. Next step to consider is setting up. Now, setting up is something that I see a lot of people, because of course you're excited, you're in the studio and it's finally the recording day and you just want to lay down your tracks and you're so pumped and you're so kicked and thrilled about it that you're like, okay, let's do it. You want to speed through your setting up process. But I would say don't do that. Take your time, slow down, make sure that you've set up the instrument the way that makes you comfortable to play, especially for drummers. Take time setting up your drum kit. Tune every drum. Make sure that you install brand new heads. For guitar players, put brand new strings. Bass players, put brand new strings. Don't walk in with old strings and definitely your stuff is not going to sound the best. You put in new strings and you see it brings so much more harmonics and so much more life into your playing. And you realize that your guitar stays so much better in tune, especially if you've stretched your strings out and set it up really well. It makes you feel really nice when you're playing it and get like I said, different plectrums, different drumsticks that you need, drum mutes, whatever. Try and make sure that you're able to set up your equipment and achieve the tone within the room the way you want to hear it in the final stage, that's mixing or the mastering stage. You're trying to achieve that tone at the recording stage itself. You're keeping that in mind and working as close as you can to achieve the tone right at the tracking stage. So if you want to move the drum kit and try different positions in the room, then try that. If you want to move the amp, then try that. Maybe try different microphones. Mic placement. It's really important that you learn and understand how all these things can really influence your recording. So you want to take your time through the setup process and don't rush this. One of the things that I do during a setup stage is, especially when I track my own band in the studio, I invite my drummer to come over to my house the day before and stay back with me, because we both end up setting up the drums the day before. We mic the drum kit. We even do like a trial tracking. I set up the session and all of that and keep it ready. So the next day we are really pumped and we're not wasting as much time early in the morning when he's feeling great and fresh and good to start tracking. We're not wasting precious time sitting and setting things up. So that's something that I follow. If that helps you, then give it a go. The next thing is committing your tones at the recording stage itself. Now, all of us know that sometimes you may want to compress your snares and kick. Sometimes you may want to use specific type of EQ on your acoustic guitar. Maybe you're cutting a lot of lows because you know that your track is going to be dense with a lot of instruments in it, and you don't need the low frequencies, anything maybe below 100 or so on your acoustic guitar. You can high pass it right on the way into your DAW. You could either use hardware EQs and compressors, or you can use softwares that help you do it. In my case, at the Red Music Box Studios, I use universal audio interfaces, and the Unison technology on that is phenomenal. It allows me to do a lot of things, including using analog style plugins, which emulates analog consoles like Neve and API and SSL and all of that. So I try these plugins out. I see which works well for what kind of source. And, if I need to compress something, if I want to do some mild EQing on the way in, sometimes I do it. And it really, really helps achieve almost like a mix-like sound in the tracking session itself. The next point that I want to discuss is a bit of a mindset that really, really helped me move my recording quality and shoot the quality up like by several steps. So the mindset is record in such a way that you don't need to edit. Record in such a way that you don't need to mix. And mix in such a way that you don't need to master. If you understand what I'm trying to say through this, it basically says don't leave too many things to be handled on a later day or at a later stage. You try and get as many things right on the day that you're working and in that process and step that you are in currently, and you realize that how much time you will save in the stages later, and that it's not just about saving time, but it's also about getting a really good results. Because if you're sitting and editing your track for too long, you risk yourself with ear fatigue and losing perspective. Same thing happens in mixing stages. And if your mix is not really good, your master is definitely not going to be the best. And so every little thing affects the other. So one of the most biggest misconceptions that I have heard people say is you record and everything can be handled in the mix stage. Honestly, mix engineers or studio engineers are not magicians. They can't take terribly recorded tracks and make it sound really good. There are tools and softwares that help you fix things a little bit, but again, there are certain limits to how much you can do it. So it's definitely not feasible to assume that you can record bad quality sound or tracks and then you expect that everything can be fixed on the recording day. On the mixing day or the editing day. It just doesn't work that way. You have to make sure that you get things right on the recording day and not so much at the later stages. Some extra tips for people who are recording themselves at home, in their home studio setup. Definitely setting up your session and preparing your session and loading up all the tracks and loading up your favorite reverbs and delays and the auxiliary tracks and having it all routed, connecting your mics and leaving it really helps, because the next day when you walk in to start tracking, then you just feel like you can go for it, arm the tracks and start tracking, and you're so much in the mood and you're in the flow and you're just letting your creative juices flow. So that really helps a lot. Try it out. Learning different miking techniques is another very important thing. So please invest in yourself more than gear. It's not so much about the gear, it's always about you. How do you use the equipment is what matters a lot. So learn how all these techniques, different mics, how do they work, what do each mic do, what is the characteristic of a certain mic, what happens if you place a certain mic a certain way. Try and understand these things. Expensive equipment is always not necessarily the best equipment. You will be surprised to know how many albums and songs are actually made on extremely low budget or reasonably priced equipment. You'll be truly surprised to know that. So don't be afraid to use what you already have. Try and get the best quality with whatever gear that you already have with you. Incorporate separate practice days to do all of these things. I would say don't leave a lot of these experimentation on the tracking day alone. When you're free and when you're not doing anything, use those days to try some of these things out. It really pays off on your project days when you're starting your recording and mixing sessions. Try different things, practice them. Practice makes you perfect. So the other thing is learning stuff like what is phasing, understanding how phasing works, especially if you're using multiple mics. If you're trying to record drums by yourself, then you're going to have a lot of phasing issues. So you want to make sure that you understand what is phase and how can you avoid it to the best possible ability by practicing good mic placement techniques. So try and understand these things. And also gain staging, a very important thing. If you don't know signal flow and gain staging, then you're setting yourself up for some lot of troubles in the later stages and even maybe your recording stage itself. So make sure that you understand all these things before you start tracking yourself at home, if that's what you're doing. If you're using a professional studio to get all your work done, then chances are there are really good engineers over there and you'll be able to handle a lot of these things without worrying or breaking your head too much about it. So that's pretty much it, guys. I've completed all my points for this video. More importantly, I would say have fun. Make sure that all the energy, the excitement, and all the happiness that you have saved up for this recording day comes through in the recording and it sounds the best as it possibly can. Trust the people that you're working with. Don't self-doubt a lot. It doesn't quite lead you to any good results, really. So have fun again. And if you like this video, then do the usual things. Please do subscribe to my channel and ding the bell so you're notified when there's new content available. Leave your comment below. I'm reading all your comments and I'd love to respond. And also I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the things that you practice on your recording days that helps you a lot? And invite your friends as well. Share the videos with your friends and have them join this channel. It'll mean a lot to me. Thank you for your support again. And see you soon in another video. My name is Varun from the Red Music Box. And don't forget to create, play, and record.